Oklahoma, Texas versus the SEC is pretty much where we're at right now because the SEC is so utterly dominant. And I led with this because Tennessee and Oklahoma play this year. You might have heard. And then Tennessee's got to travel to Norman this year. And I'm not feeling really good about Oklahoma really getting out of there unscathed. I still think they get the W because they're more talented at quarterback, whether or not it's Jared Guantano or Brian Maher or Harrison Bailey. Although I don't know who rated Harrison Bailey a 5-star because I think that's a misevaluation. But their offensive line is going to be really good. They get both the Mays boys. If Cade Mays is immediately eligible, then they get even more solid because Trey Smith is there. Eric Gray and Ty Chandler each average about 5 yards a carry. Matter of fact, when I was doing my prep for this show, I read a Vol beat writer write that Ty Chandler's 4.9 yards per carry left something to be desired, which is not a sentence that I think that anybody should ever be allowed to write, ever. If you average 5 yards a carry, you're really damn good at playing running back. But Eric Gray also went for 246 yards on like 25 carries against Vanderbilt. It's Vanderbilt, but it's still nearly 250 on the ground. So what I'm saying is they returned both of their star tailbacks. They returned an offensive line that's just awesome. And Alex Grinch ain't really fond of his defense right now. But then again, I don't know when the man has ever been fond of it except in games. So knowing all of that, I'm looking at Texas and I go, okay, they got to battle LSU this year, in a year in which LSU ranks near the bottom, like 127th out of 130 teams when we're talking about returning production. Now, they had 16 guys go to the scouting combine, and, you know, they had the Heisman winner at quarterback, and they had the Biletnikoff Award winner at wide receiver. They returned the Biletnikoff Award winner. They lose the Joe Moore Award offensive line. They lose the starting quarterback, and they're going to be really, really young on the defense because they lose both middle linebackers in Jacob Phillips and Patrick Queen. They also lose their best edge rusher in Kayvon Chasen. They lose the Jim Thorpe Award winner in Grant Delpit. But if Texas doesn't beat LSU after all of the things that I just listed, in a year in which Texas returns, you know, one of the best returning rosters in college football this year, you could easily see Oklahoma and Texas getting pounded by Tennessee and LSU. And then, again, you're back to the laughingstock of Power 5 football in that Oklahoma wins the Big 12. They go to the college football playoff. They get beat down. September is going to be a make or break month for Oklahoma and Texas football and the SEC, really, but you ought to beat Tennessee if you're OU, and you ought to beat LSU if you're Texas. So the idea of being embarrassed is really what I wanted to talk about here. And I can only imagine how it would feel if both OU and Texas took L's to SEC teams that ain't supposed to win the Southeastern Conference title this year. To which I would ask, like, am I being too hard on them, Laurel? Because I feel like I'm just hard on both of these teams all the time. But then again, I expect them to win every game.
You are, because you love them and you're invested in them.
There's nowhere to go besides being hard on OU because they're a win to 2 wins away. Like to be soft on them means that they don't make the playoff. So yeah, you'd love for them to. I'm not Laurel. You would love for them to not get embarrassed, but actually, you absolutely do not want to get beat by the tire fire that is Tennessee. But
hey, I want to jump in there right quick and say that Tennessee, from October 26th to January 2nd, didn't lose. Mm-hmm. They started 1-4. They finished 8-5. I don't know that they're a tire fire. And also, shout out to Rico, my cousin, is in the chat, and he's a big Rocky Top fan.
Okay, well, shout out to Rico.
What up, Rico?
Because if you're talking about like losing to a team that doesn't win the SEC, then I mean, like the top 3 teams. So I mean, to be hard on them, I guess you want them to be at least number 2. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This one's kind of tough because I definitely don't want to lose to Tennessee, but I mean, like losing to LSU is not the worst thing in the world, seeing as they were like one of the best teams. And if Texas loses to them, like I guess Texas and OU are in the same boat of losing to top tier teams.
Can I say something crazy?
Sure. Like crazy.
I have never understood the purpose of conferences other than, hey, geographically, this is where you're at. So why don't they just throw everybody in based on size of school, and then just bingo?
That's actually a really good question, in that it's all about money.
course.
Well, no, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, the reason the Big 12 exists is because the networks, in particular ABC, pointed out to the Southwestern Conference, hey, Rice doesn't add anything here. we need you to get rid of one of these teams, and we need you to go team up with Nebraska and Oklahoma so that we can have some better games to televise, because we're leaving money on the table here. And that's the reason why so many people wanted to get into the SEC with the last conference realignment, is Missouri and Texas A&M stand to make a boatload more money just by joining that league and raising the profile of their football. Now, A&M ain't won anything since 1939. And by won anything, I mean a national championship. Missouri, Missouri's trash. But when you're talking about grouping these teams together based on size, I mean, a lot of people are for that, because then you get to see better games, and you don't have to have things like Appalachian State showing up to ruin your big-time college football wet dream of a college football playoff. Mm-hmm. But seeing as the committee's never going to let that happen in the first place, I don't care. I personally like the idea of perhaps having an Appalachian State get an opportunity to win a national championship, because I would like to see such a thing before I die. I would like to see a Boise State get a shot. Maybe they'll get ran. Maybe they'll end up, I don't know, Butler. But even as it stands right now, if you put all the blue bloods into a conference and just call them blue bloods, everybody would watch that, but we'd also watch Mason Fine at North Texas because we like football. But it's a good question, and what it really does come down to is money. Like, nobody cares about Baylor football until Ann Richards puts her thumb on the scale and says, "Hey, put my team in this new league." And did the same thing with Texas Tech. Who the hell is Texas Tech? Mm-hmm. Nobody cares. You know, the teams that they care about in this conference are Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma and Texas. Whereas, like, find me the big roaring fan base for Oklahoma State. Find me the big roaring fan base for Kansas. Like, would anybody care? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what that comes back to is, how many alums do you have? Like, Texas has 1 million. Like, their alumni base is bigger than Oklahoma's.
Right. So, like, I like this idea.
Anybody likes Texas too. No,
it's true though.
I know.
No, like, we had this conversation a while ago about why do people like Texas, and it's just because they pump out a lot of people that like Texas or went to Texas, as opposed to Texas being a classically good ball club.
Right.
No, I like the idea of organizing conferences by size, so that you'd have Wisconsin and Texas and Penn State and Florida and the University of California system all in one conference, and so you have your blue bloods versus your mid majors. I'd love to see that at the end of the season. I truly would.
At the end of the season.
Yeah.
Not at the beginning, like Hunger Games, when you're pulling them out.
Well, no, I mean, yes, Hunger Games, but college football. I would like that.
I would too.
So, shout out to Abdul Muhammad right quick, because it's 3:20 a.m. over there in the Philippines, and he is watching this.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, Abdul is like a P1 on the channel. And
welcome, Abdul. Is it warm there?
I mean, he'll probably tell us here in a minute. Shout, man. And Corey stays in this because he's also saying, look, how does this work for basketball? To which I'm going, nobody really cares how this works for basketball, because basketball does not generate enough money. Unless you are Kansas or Duke or even North Carolina, but even that's on the wane, you don't factor in with revenue. And if you don't factor in with revenue, you don't get a say on what's going on with the conference. Because, yeah, you have basketball-only conferences like the Big East, but they don't really make any money now, do they? You know, Jim Boeheim and Syracuse can only bring in so much. You know, it's really about the Orangeman football, which is why they spend so much money on guys like Dino Babers, trying to get them back to good. If football didn't run the world, we wouldn't be talking so much about football. But even now, we're in a absolute lull for sports. And what are we talking about? The NFL Players Association passed its voted yes on the CBA. which the take is not that they voted yes on the CBA or even that it's 1,019 to 959. It's that there are 2,500 voting members in the NFLPA and 522 of y'all didn't vote. Y'all are the worst. I hate y'all. I can't stand that.
Give me this good collective bargaining agreement drama. I love it.
But it's
Rub it on
true
my
because
skin.
now you got 2 franchise tags, right? You got your non-exclusive franchise tag and your real franchise tag. Yeah, you're getting 1.5% more in the revenue sharing, but now you got to play a 17th game where guys that are used to making about $1 million plus or even $650,000 are going to get capped at $250,000. They're taking it from 26 padded practices to 18, but everybody knows you're not going hard in practice. You're going hard in games, and that one extra game is going to destroy you. Mm-hmm. And then you didn't get any health care. And nobody's going to give lifetime health insurance to a football player. It's just not going to happen. But we care so much because we're talking about that 1.5% being close to $5 billion that's going to go into the pool. Now, how does that factor into what we were talking about with these conference realignment things? Same difference.